Preview season continues here on the channel, and today it's all about Virginia Tech. How can the Hokies carry forward what was an underwhelming year? A team that had a lot of hope behind them, a lot of dark horse ACC picks behind them, and really they ended up being just a 500 team that couldn't seem to get anything going. We'll talk about last year, we'll talk about this upcoming year, get a schedule prediction, all that and more here on today's episode of Armchair Analysis. Welcome into the channel. If you guys are new here, leave a like, subscribe, comment down below. We are one away, as of me recording this video, from 100 subscribers. Help us get there. It means a lot. It's all free. Just helps these videos get out further. And we're having a lot of fun. We are continuing this trek through the Power Four, previewing every single team to include Notre Dame as we lead into August and get started with even further predictions, college football playoff predictions, conference standings predictions, Heisman predictions, and then when we get to the season, we'll have in-depth previews, we'll have weekend recaps. We're basically seven days worth of content throughout the course of the college football season. And then in the off season, we stick around all year long. So stick around. Again, leave a like, subscribe. Let's go ahead and talk about Virginia Tech this year. To do that, we got to talk about 2024. And again, this team was 500 last year. They were 6-7, 4-4 in conference play, losing that bowl game to Minnesota, and that was in here, actually, well, local to me in Charlotte. And truth be told, this team had a lot of ups and downs last year. It all started with that loss to Vanderbilt in week 1, and from there, things never really got any better. As I look at things, they lost to Rutgers early in the season as well, went 2-2 in non-conference, and then really just kind of carried that 500 stretch through conference play. They just never seemed to get comfortable with each other. They never seemed to work together, especially offensively. And even though they averaged 28.2 points per game, it just felt like this team never really had an overall rhythm, a very good chemistry, I guess maybe the word. You know, we saw Bashaw Tootin, he's now gone, and they bring in Terrion Stewart. We'll talk a little bit about him and the transfers, the influx of transfers at running back. But Kyron Drones is expected to be better, maybe an all-conference caliber player, and we didn't get that from him. Points per game allowed last year, they gave up 22.8 points per game. That was 39th in college football. And then they averaged plus a 0.6 in the turnover margin category, which is good because they forced a lot of turnovers last season. Had a 40th overall recruiting class, number 42 overall portal class. They didn't do a lot of big things, but they did a lot of little things that I think can boost this team and make them maybe a little better. Looking at this team, it's Brent at head coach, but it's a brand new coordinator staff. I mean, this was clean house at the end of the season last year. And Brent really has this last-ditch effort to make things work in Blacksburg. Of course, Brent came over, formerly defensive coordinator at Penn State, and was expected to really carry on the defensive moniker of this team and build for the future. What we've seen is a stagnation, and you know, they improved last year on 2023, certainly, but by how much, truly? Philip Montgomery comes in to help out this offense. He'll be year 1, a long time offensive coach, and a guy that I think can really help out in a lot of categories, especially the quarterback position. You got Sam Seifkes coming in as the new defensive coordinator, looking to bring in a new level, and he's been in the NFL for the last 4 years with the Cardinals, I believe, most recently. So it's going to be really fun to watch how this team kind of starts to work together and learns a new system and comes into it. It's going to be tough though, and it's a tough schedule. We'll talk a little bit about it, but it's not light by any means. They get 2 SEC opponents in non-conference. They play some of the higher top half teams, and then they got other teams that maybe aren't that good that can pull off some upsets themselves. So we'll get into that too. But let's go ahead and go through this roster. They got 2 returning starters on offense. Kyron Drones is one of them, and I think that Kyron Drones is going to be really the key to this team and this offense. And we could say that about any quarterback, but really here I think it stands out a lot more because we noticed that when he was good, when he had good games, they played really well and they were a really solid team. When he was not playing well, the team was not going with him. Bashal Tootin kind of took some of the load off last year, really became kind of a key player to this team, but now he's out, and they're going to try to replace him with Terrion Stewart. They also have Marcellus Hawkins coming over from Central Missouri, but Terrion Stewart I think is going to be the one back. He's going to be the guy coming over from Bowling Green. We'll see kind of what the carry rate looks like, but I expect him to have probably somewhere between 50 and 75% of carries in 2025 as in terms of running back carries. I'm not going to include quarterback keeps on that. At wide receiver, they got Donovan Green, transferred in from Wake Forest. It was a really solid piece last year for the offense in Winston-Salem. Cameron Sullivan comes over from Tennessee, was a bench player. We'll see what he can do as kind of in a starting role. And then they got Aiden Green, who's coming back from last year. This team does have a handful of kind of an influx of transfers on the at the wide receiver position, but I don't have an overall feel for this team yet at receiver. I think that Donovan Green's probably going to be the leading receiver this year. He's going to be fun to watch. It's really going to be fun to see how this passing game develops under Philip Montgomery. Benji Gosnell's a guy who was probably the best receiving target, I would say, last year for this team. And I'm not talking about stats, I'm just talking about like overall feel from this team last year. So it'll be fun to watch what Gosnell can do as well as he returns. He's the other returning starter with drones from 2024. This team only returns 2 players on the offensive line, or 2 of the projected starters on the offensive line from last year's roster. 3 of the 5 projected starters are underclassmen, but the majority of the offensive line room is underclassmen. This is an inexperienced group, and this is going to be, I think, beyond drones, beyond how the skill position players work. This offensive line, I think, will make the biggest difference in how this entire season goes, really. Their ability to be physical up front will determine really what they can do, because if they can run the ball, I think they'll have a better time passing it. Hard to say, again, because I don't know. I overhyped this team last year. I had this team making the ACC title, losing to Florida State. That was a bad prediction on a lot of parts. That's what I had, though, and I feel like I overreacted to what I thought was good to this team last year. I'm trying not to overreact to the fact that I'm not buying it this year, and I'm also trying not to sit here and say that this team is just going to be bad, because I don't think that's true. I just think that there's a lot of question marks, again, this year that are going to be tough to answer because there's so much change going on in the program, especially offensively. This team last year was not in the top half in any grade regarding offensive line, and coming back with more underclassmen, a younger roster than last year, I think it's going to be tough to sit back and say that it's going to be improved, I think is the best way to put it. As for the defense, they got 2 returning starters, those 2 being Jaden Keller and Caleb Woodson. Those are 2 guys that are projected to start once again. They had the number 32 graded defense on PFF, 82.4 grade. And truth be told, the defense was solid. They were in the top 40 in scoring defense. They played really well at times last year, and they forced a lot of turnovers. They forced 15 interceptions, 12 forced fumbles. This team has some potential, and when they bring back 5 of 11 players, their projected starters from 2024, along with a couple really solid transfers, I'm really looking at James Jonkum from Eastern Michigan to come in and be a big part of this team. Isaiah Brown Murray is another one coming over from ECU. I think he is going to have a really solid year as well. When you talk about those 2 guys, on top of what they're bringing back, Jaden Keller, of course, with 83 tackles last year. Caleb Woodson had 8 tackles for loss. He leads returning players. He had 2 sacks as well. This team had multiple players with 1 pick. They're going to have to replace a lot of the production. About 10 interceptions worth of of production from the defense last year is what they're going to have to replace, so we'll see who can do that. And then same thing with the forced fumbles. They're going to have to replace about 10 forced fumbles as well. Kelvin Gilliam had 1 forced fumble last year. This team, specifically the defense, I think is going to be fine. I think that this is kind of the bread and butter for Brent, obviously coming from Penn State, again, being that defensive coordinator there, and carrying on that tradition that you could say was started by Bud Foster here. This team, I think, has that old school feel. They're going to be really solid defensively. We're going to question what they're going to be on offense. And we'll kind of see what they can do. My overall thoughts is that this is a team that's just solid. They're good. They are a good team. But they don't stand out anywhere. There's nowhere that I sit back and say, okay, this is going to be the big difference maker for why they win games. I could see a lot of questions for why they would lose games, but who's going to make the difference in why they win a game? I don't really know yet. I think the defense is probably the unit as a whole, but I don't have a position group that makes a difference. The schedule is not necessarily the hardest, but it is tough to get through. It's a lot of questionable, probably 50-50 games. And then you got a few games that are you're just outmatched, at least on paper. So with that said, let's go ahead and look at the schedule here for the Hokies. And it starts off on August 31st. They get a neutral site game against South Carolina. And this game being played in Atlanta, it's going to be a fun one. A Sunday game that they're going to get the spotlight here. We're going to see what South Carolina is, but we're also going to see what this Virginia Tech team is. You have Vanderbilt. This team lost to Vanderbilt in Nashville last year, and Vandy's going to come up to Blacksburg to play. That's going to be a fun game. I think that's going to be probably a must-watch on week 2. Old Dominion and Wofford, some games to kind of figure out who you are, but keep in mind, Virginia Tech has lost to Old Dominion recently. So that's not necessarily a walk in the park. NC State on the road, going to be an interesting game. That's one of those toss-up games to me. Wake Forest is not necessarily a toss-up game. I think Virginia Tech would be favored. Georgia Tech, I think Georgia Tech's favored. Cal, probably Virginia Tech favored, especially at home, but it's close. Louisville, Florida State, Miami, on paper, those 3 are better. And then Virginia at home or on the road to close out the season. Team sits at an over-under of 6.5, plus 5,000 odds to win the ACC, and then plus 100,000 to win a national championship. Let's go ahead and predict the schedule. They start off in week 1 with that game against South Carolina, and I am taking South Carolina to win. I think South Carolina is just better overall on this team, or in this game. I think that we're going to kind of get a feel for what South Carolina's defense will be, but truly we'll get a feel for what Virginia Tech's defense will be. It'll answer our question for Virginia Tech defense, South Carolina offense. I'm going to take Carolina to win. You come back home and face Vanderbilt in week 2, which again, 2 SEC matchups early in the season. That's difficult. That's a tough road to run, especially when Vanderbilt is not necessarily a team you thought they would be when you scheduled this. I think it's going to come down to Diego Pavia, Eli Sowers, and this entire Vandy offense being just comfortable together. I think that we're still going to be seeing Virginia Tech working out some kinks offensively. And at that rate, I'm taking Vandy to get the win on the road. I'll take 2 wins over Old Dominion and Wofford. I think Old Dominion, again, tougher game, questionable, but all in all, not a game that I'm totally concerned with them losing. Go on the road to face NC State, and I think the NC State, just the home field advantage, Carter Finley Stadium, going to make the difference in this one, taking the Wolfpack to win. You get a home win against Wake Forest, bounce back, and you're 3-3 after the first half, thinking, okay, we can get to a bowl game again, which I think a bowl game would be fine. The amount of change going through this program, a bowl game would be fine. But it's a tough road. You're going to be favored in probably 2 of those games. And that's estimating 2 of those games. Now, I don't know what everybody else is going to be at this point, because to be honest, I've only previewed 2 of these final 6. But it's not going to be light. That road game against Georgia Tech, I'm taking Georgia Tech. I just think that they are the better team. They're going to get it at home at Bobby Dodd, taking the Yellow Jackets. I'll give Virginia Tech the win over Cal. I think they'll be the better team at home. Get it done. A home game against Louisville, going into a bye week. I think they'll keep this one close. I think they'll have some fun in this game, but at the end of the day, I'm going to take Louisville to win. Same thing with Florida State. I think this will be a fun game. I'm not really certain how I feel about Florida State even to this point. I had them at 7-5. I have Virginia Tech in a similar spot, or close to similar spot. I'm going to take Florida State to win. I'm going to take Miami to get the job done, but understand that this late season spot here is where Miami has kind of faltered in the last couple of years. We'll see. That's going to be a closer game, I think, than people expect it to be. But I will take Miami to win. And leaving that final game against Virginia with a win, 5-7, 3-5 in ACC play. It's not as bad, I think, as people would expect, but I do think it leaves with questions. I think Brent Pry is on a hot seat, or at least the seat warms up this year, because if it's not already. He is a coach that I think has a lot of potential and has done really well as a coordinator, but the biggest issue has been the ability to recruit and develop the talent on this team. They just have not done it. We're getting to the point now where this is year 4. This is his team at this point. If that's the case, if this is his team and this is what they're going to look like going forward, you're in trouble. And I think the lack of depth on the offensive line really plays into that. I think you look at that offensive line depth, you look at their depth defensively, it's pretty solid, but on the offense, it's not. They're not deep anywhere. It's going to be interesting to see the direction that the athletics department takes. Do they keep Brent Pry? Do they let him go after 5-7? Who knows? Let me know. If you're a Virginia Tech fan, tell me, what do you think is going to happen if they go 5-7 this year? Let me know what you project for this team in 2025. You can always utilize the comments down below. And certainly, go ahead and leave me who I may have missed. I mean, there's names all throughout college football. If I'm trying to cover 134 teams and it is just me on this team, we've got 136 now teams to cover. And I'm covering 68 in 68 days. Things are going to get missed. As much as I don't want them to, they're going to get missed. I'm not talking to somebody about this. I'm going through with my eyes and talking about what I know. So let me know what I might have missed. Again, leave a like, subscribe, comment down below if you made it this far. Tomorrow we got Texas Tech coming up. Excited because this is a team that a lot of people are loving for Big 12 championship picture. We'll see what I think of them. I think this is a fun team. Virginia Tech is a team that I think is interesting. One we got to keep an eye on. But again, thank you all for tuning in. It's been really cool. Again, we're 1 subscriber away from 100. I walked into this season, or this rebrand, really, of this channel with the intent to really hammer it and go after it. I told a lot of people, I'm going to take 3 years. I'm going to do everything I can in 3 years and see how this grows. And if it's continuing to grow at that point, then we're going to stick around and we're going to keep doing it. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you leave a like. We are, again, 1 away from 100, and that's incredible from where we started back in April. So, appreciate all that. Thank you so much for tuning in. Tomorrow it's Texas Tech. Make sure you tune in. But we will see you then.